Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm your Scarlet Witch, Ian Carlos Crawford, and today joining me is my vision,
Kiersten White. We also have the vengeful ghost of Pietro.
Hi, Preeti Chhibber here.
And Darcy's non-existent coffee.
It's Brandon T. Snider.
Hi everyone. Kiersten, you did such a good job. You thought you were going to mess up, but you did great.
I'm so proud of myself.
We're proud of you, Kiersten.
So we are here today to talk WandaVision episode 4. Before we get started, I wanted to ask all of y'all, did any of you watch Lost when it aired? Because this felt very Lost to me.
Yes.
Oh, yes. This
Right?
You're very right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I love hearing that.
No, I was actually thinking about Lost this morning in context of WandaVision because I was thinking about how Lost was the last show that I was absolutely encyclopedic on all of the details and the connections and the cameos and the clues. And I think it broke me because being encyclopedic about that never ended up mattering.
Nope. I was just going to be like, except WandaVision at least hopefully seems like it has like a straightforward like idea about how it's going to end.
Yeah.
Ooh, burn.
Zing.
I love Lost. I will defend most of it, but yes, memorizing all that shit just didn't matter in the end.
I mean, I had the code memorized. Oh
my god.
But the smoke monster, what does it mean?
Like a few years ago, my partner and I went to Hawaii for and we did a Lost tour. And I watched Lost, I was into it, but I did not retain any information about it. And this guy would just stop at like certain places and be like we would just pull into like a driveway and he'd be like, you know where we are? And I'd be
Nope.
like, no. And he'd be like, this is the garage where Hurley found. And I'm like, I don't know any of this. So you just take us to where we need to go so we can see the vistas. Thank you.
Okay, wait, can I tell a very brief story about the ending of Lost? Because I was in Brooklyn at the time and they used to do these Lost watches at the Knitting Factory in Williamsburg. And so we went for the finale and the band previously on Lost played, which I still know the songs. And both Daniel Day Kim and Jorge Garcia were there. And I was like 24 or something. And I was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
I can't even imagine the energy at that place. Like
it was wild.
Like it must have been pulsing.
Yep. For Lost.
Yeah. I mean, like I can't. Yeah.
So today we're here to talk about episode 4, which is I just kept thinking of Lost because it would do aside from the fact that it was like filling in the holes that we needed filled in, and I felt like it was doing the thing with science that Lost did, where like they didn't try to give us, they would just like say a word and be like, that's why. And like, I'm totally okay with that in this kind of storytelling. I don't know how you all feel, but I'm like, great. Yeah. Don't give me a long Star Trek explanation because I'm not going to understand it. So like, just say a word and we keep moving. And that's why, right?
Yeah. Like what did Darcy call the like, it was like background commercial underground blue rainbow rays?
CMBR.
Those, of course.
It was DMBR, Dave Matthews Band Radiation.
No.
It's from the Big Bang.
Yes.
But yeah, so I definitely prefer that because I'm very willing to accept whatever the hell they say, right? Like, sure. But so the opening, I thought this opening brought more like nuance and depth to what would happen with everyone coming back than Endgame or Spider-Man Far From Home. Like I thought it, and Tiana Paris is just so freaking good, right?
Yes.
Love her.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was so sad, and it was so impactful, and it was also confusing because, I mean, when she first started coming back, I thought, because it kind of the swirly almost looked like Scarlet Witch magic, so I was like, oh, this.
Yeah.
And then when it actually clicked what it was, I felt like it was even that much more impactful. Like, it was a fantastic opening scene.
Yeah, I really appreciated the like emotion that they brought to it, because as much as I think the opening to Spider-Man Far From Home is genius, like absolute genius, it does lose kind of the emotional impact when you center it all on Tony Stark instead of like the entire world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just that chaos and confusion, like, was
Yes.
just so like I like starting from a place of what exactly is happening, where everyone is just like, because then it's just like I'm invested in figuring out what's happening.
So I will tell you all, I had my Zoom workout I had on Friday, but I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to watch WandaVision. I have like a full like 40, 30 minutes before I need to work out. I can watch the episode. I watched this opening, cried, and was like, nope, I need to watch this later when I can like emotionally process and not have to go immediately rushing off after watching it. So I like stopped it and watched it afterwards because I was like, no, I'm already crying. I'm already having too many emotions. We'll do this later. And I cried the second time I watched it and the third time.
Sensitive.
I have a lot of feelings.
I mean, I teared up like in episode 3 when she mentioned Pietro. I was like,
Yeah.
That hit me really, like that really, really hit me. Like when she said Pietro, because like we haven't dealt with any of that aftermath.
Yeah.
Like we haven't had this, the same emotional arc for Wanda in any of the Avengers films that we have had for other people.
No.
So like,
agreed.
there's what is the fallout from her brother's death has just not been touched.
Yeah.
And so the minute that somebody laid a finger on it was just like, it took my breath away, because you're like, oh my God, her brother is dead.
Yeah.
We have no dealt with this.
And I feel like this episode just really worked to remind us that this person lost everything.
Yeah, and we've never seen her allowed to grieve, right? Like she couldn't grieve because she was in the middle of a battle, and then, when she lost Vision, she's immediately snapped out of existence, and then comes back, and she's once again in the middle of a battle. So yeah, she's never had space to grieve, at least that we've seen. So yeah, it is.
So let her have Westview. Just let her have it.
She deserves this.
Let her take an entire town captive. I don't care.
What were they doing anyway?
Pull me in, Wanda. Pull me in.
Now, Ian, don't you live in Westview in New Jersey? Is that, or is that like, maybe you could be doing WandaVision tours? This is where Westview is technically located.
I was thinking in my head, I was like, I wonder where, like, if they like wanted it to be, because like Kamala Khan is from Jersey City, so I was like, I wonder if they would want it to be closer to there, because I'm more far away I'm more south, and so I was like, I wonder if it's like supposed to be near there, or if it's supposed to be more, but like, it's just but there's like Plainview, so there's a couple of towns that sound like Westview. So we go to the way that Doctor delivers, like, your mom, she died, honey, and like Tiana Powers' face is like, so good. So then we get the big, I thought it was really cool that like that cut is like, we cut to the Marvel opening, and it feels like it's like, oh, Monica Rambeau's getting her big Marvel opening, and I really like that. Then we cut to her going to Sword, and I like this scene of like the guy being like, well, then you don't work here, and then that other the Hayward dude comes out, and he's like, oh, good to see you, and she side eyes the security guard, just so would I be like, I do work here, eat that.
Did anyone else though, like in that moment when he came up, I was like, oh no, an older white man in a position of authority, I don't trust you.
Yeah, and then later when I don't know, like I get weird vibes from that dude. I don't trust him. Yeah,
right, same.
Well, hey, so apparently his last name is Hayward, which is related. Okay, so yesterday I fell into like a K-hole of WandaVision theories, which are so easy. There are certain websites that have made their entire thing is taking a smidgen of something and turning it into something. Apparently there was a guy on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. who was like a mole of some sort named somebody Hayward. And people were saying maybe this guy is related and he's a bad guy.
Why else did you reuse that last name though? Like there are a lot of last names,
right?
I mean, that you have a point.
Well, I don't know if did any of you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
The first few seasons, I feel like I did watch.
So I've seen a couple of things that have been like, look, this ties into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I kind of feel like Marvel didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I don't think they did.
Well, yeah, isn't that the whole thing that Joss Whedon got mad and was like, no?
I kind of think they're like, we keep hearing rumors like, oh, like this Netflix character might come back, but we're not hearing any rumors like, oh, this like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. character is going to come back, because I feel like they don't, like that would make sense for them to be coming in and out of these too, but I don't feel like they want to acknowledge it at all.
I don't think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Inhumans are like, those are things that like, I think if you were to say those in the presence of a Marvel executive, they would just pretend that you didn't speak.
Yeah, no, I feel like Kevin Feige would just be like, who? Anne?
I don't know her. Medusa? No, I don't know her.
No, then Kevin Feige would throw me through a bunch of walls and kick me out of Westview. Is what he would do.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Rewind the footage so that it never gets mentioned and move on.
But so I like we get the like, we see that plaque of Maria.
Oh.
I like that Maria, at least, while we didn't get like, same thing with like Peggy Carter, it's like we at least got to know they founded these like huge groups. And I feel like at least like, because like clearly we knew Maria was going to have to die because she aged and Carol didn't. And I knew we were going to have to, have that conversation at some point. I kind of didn't think we would have it here, but it fits. I mean, we're getting Monica, so.
I mean, it feels like Lashana Lynch is super busy, which is great. I'm like, all right, yeah, you're getting a lot of work, and I love that for you.
Wait, what else is she in?
I mean, she's like doing Bond. I feel like she's been cast in several things.
Right. Oh, right. I forgot she was in Bond. So yeah, I like that if like, okay, if we can't get more of that character, at least have it be like they, even though they're like quote unquote the human character, they still did like something important and helped or whatever. And I don't know if you all noticed when Monica and Hayward are walking to the escalators or elevators, we see the TV screen, like a huge screen playing the news, and it like says like the timeline of the show. I'm still not 100% clear on, but I think it's like all pretty close to after Endgame. Like I don't think it's that far, because it says like Blip brings back a bunch of like,
he said it took her 2 weeks to walk in, and she was the only one who had come back so far. So it's 2 weeks after, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then like they go right into investigating this, right? So there's no like, it's not, I mean, a few weeks could pass, but it's not like a year or a few months or anything, right?
Right.
So I kind of like knowing that like, okay, it isn't too far after Endgame, because also that makes sense. If Wanda, I mean, trauma can come back to you, but it would make sense that Wanda would be dealing with it right after that battle, and not like waiting however many years it's been since, you know what I mean?
Yeah. She's not staring at a picture for a month and being like,
right.
Oh. Well, I feel like it could be the last time we see her is at Tony Stark's funeral, right? Like, I feel like it's totally conceivable that Clint gets pulled away, because he's kind of her only shoulder at that point. Right. He gets pulled away because his family is back. The family, by the which that we never saw Wanda knew anything about. And so Wanda is just like isolated. She doesn't have anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of the Avenger that's like had it the worst, I feel like. I mean, I wouldn't want to like downplay the trauma of Tony Stark's parents getting murdered, but like he had he had Pepper, he had his daughter, he like had a full family, had a pretty full life afterwards. And it's like Scarlet Witch, it's like family member after family member is dying and she's not getting to do anything else. It's like, oh, they die and then she has to go be an Avenger. Oh, someone else dies, she has to go be an Avenger. Like there's no... right? Like
she's like in a cage for years of her life.
Right.
Parents gone, brother gone,
entire city gone.
Yeah.
So like it would make sense that they pick her to be the one to do this. I mean, also from the comics, like blending about like 5 different stories here. But yeah, I don't know. Even though we're poising Wanda as the villain, especially after these last 2 episodes.
I don't know. I disagree on that note.
Okay, go ahead.
Like, I don't think if you watch it, she's still shown in this sympathetic, like, even though she's doing these things, they make it a point narratively to give us a moment of her, like, realization, like her horror at her own actions, which to me is like, I'm like, that's not a villain. That's someone who has been pushed beyond the breaking point and is trying so hard to keep it together. Like, I think another villain is coming that's going to show us that somehow, like, not that Wanda was manipulated, but they are using this to their own ends in some
why
way.
else would there be Hydra commercials? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I was going to say. They're like poisoning her as the villain, but I do feel like there will be, whether it's Agnes or Dottie, because both of them were not identified by
correct.
everyone on the board.
Yep.
Like Agnes's picture was up there, but she was the only one that had a picture and no ID. And I did read that people thought that Dottie wasn't identified only because she's in episode 2 and they're identifying episode 1 people, but then they are identifying people from the second episode on that board and still not Dottie. So I feel like one of them will be the villain, one of them will be the witness protection person.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I'm leaning towards Agnes is the witness protection person and Dottie is the villain. But the Hayward tells Monica about this missing persons case that turned into the missing town case. She meets up with Jimmy Woo.
Yeah.
And
hey, Randall Park.
I was so happy. I knew he was coming from the previews, but still, as soon as he showed up on screen, I was like, oh.
And then he did that card trick. The greatest moment of continuity in the MCU.
Oh, I love his character so much.
Okay, wait, Preeti. Oh,
Yeah.
You know what? I was gonna ask if you guys knew. I saw that tweet going around that was like, real friends know, and he's holding up the card. What's the thing there? Because I don't remember.
It's so in Ant-Man when he's introduced, Ant-Man has learned Scott learned how to do like card tricks, and he shows him the like card flip, and Jimmy Woo like at one point he's like, hey, how'd you do that? And then there's like another scene of him like trying to learn how to do it, and now he can do it.
Oh my god, I do love that. I like completely forgot about that.
It's really nice.
Gross.
I immediately like the idea of like, I have faith in Marvel too. Like, I think they're good at like, we have these characters like him and Darcy that are, kind of floating in and out. And for me, that's like true comic books where like we do use a lot of the same, even if they're like not superheroes, they do use a lot of the same, like I think of like Henry Gyrick, who was like a Marvel X-Men villain, but like he sometimes worked for the government and worked as a liaison to the Avengers and like, shit like that. I really like that comic bookiness to it, where it's like, yeah, this character we haven't seen in a few years, we're gonna bring them back because why not?
Yeah, I love that they're working with what they have because they already have 2 phenomenal side characters who killed it in the movies they were in. So like, take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Have Darcy come in and be the scientist who figures everything out. Like, it makes sense to use them, and they use them so well. It made me really happy.
Right? That's the benefit of a shared continuity.
Yeah. You can be like, oh, this actor that was really good, and they, even though they only had like, two lines in a movie, sure, let's use them again because they were good.
Oh yeah. I feel so happy for actors that get cast in a Marvel thing and are like, I can have a job every once in a while.
Yeah.
Somebody will need me to come in and it'll be a surprise and fans will love it. And like,
but so Marie and Jimmy learn that even the police officers, like basically everyone has like amnesia of some sort or like a blockage where they can't remember Westview existing. Because I'm always self-doubting, when the cops tell Maria or would tell Monica, oh, Westview doesn't exist, and she looks at the sign, then looks back at them, my brain immediately was like, oh, are we not supposed to see that sign? Like what? But it's like, oh no, they're just wrong.
Yeah.
Like I was like doubting what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those people.
At the beginning of that, I was also in the same thing because I kept being like, why are you parked there? Just keep driving. Like, why are you in the outskirts of, and then I was like, okay, yeah, now I get it. Okay, yeah. But I was like, why, just keep driving. Like, why are the cops like, meet us by the town sign? Like, really?
So they try to fly in the drone, which we then learn is the helicopter that Wanda sees in episode 2. And then she touches the field and immediately gets sucked in. I know I've seen a couple tweets about this too, saying like, ooh, make it like an X-Files show of the 2 of them. I would also
100%.
watch that.
Yes.
If it's like Monica, Jimmy Woo, and Darcy just like solving supernatural science fiction-y like crimes and happenings. That would be a great show. I would love it.
Writer's room right here. We'll do it.
Yeah, there we go. We got it. So now I'm like, oh, the thing I wanted to point out is that when he does say their witness protection, the person that was in witness protection, he does use him to refer to that
Yeah, it was
person.
masculine.
Right.
So I was like, oh shit. And I only noticed that in my second watch.
Huh.
But I mean, it's still, I feel like it could be like, oh, that's still Agatha Harkness. She just, was posing as this man. But then in my head, I was like, I wonder if, since they said him, if like Wonder Man is one of the people in protection, like witness protection.
Oh.
Because that would make sense, like him connecting to like WandaVision, right? Like he has like this connection with Scarlet Witch.
Okay, for those of us who, yes, who
right,
is
yes.
Wonder Man?
Preeti, do you want to explain who Wonder Man is?
I did the last thing. Brandon can do it.
I don't
Brandon.
have a full grasp of Wonder. I mean, so I don't know the fullness of the connection between Wonder Man and Scarlet Witch. Wonder Man is a character from Marvel. I'm like, Wonder Man is a character from Marvel Comics. His name is Simon Williams.
He's kind of the part 3 of the triangle of Vision,
Yes.
Wanda,
If they
and
were poly, he would be part of this situation somehow. Okay, so he is an actor. He has also, though, appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy. Was it 1 or 2?
What?
He was, because Simon Williams is an actor, and he was originally going to be in one of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
2, yeah.
2.
And his stuff got cut, and so he was played by Nathan Fillion, and then so all they did was they put there was like a movie poster or something,
Yeah.
with him on it, but also like there's a scene I've seen it floating around where Nathan Fillion is Simon Williams in some sort of in movie within a movie sort of situation. So
Oh, really?
that would be interesting if he was like in it, but I don't know. Anyway, so he is an Avenger. I'm really grasping this. He is a character in the universe.
You're killing it, Brandon.
They wrote him into a visual kind of storytelling
It's like
mechanic.
a sequential sort of thing where it's like, oh, something happens in this panel and then something happens. I just don't know how they're all. I read like a thing last week about the connection, and I was like, there's so much, because then you have to get into like, who's the guy whose helmet was in episode 1 of WandaVision?
Oh, Grim Reaper.
Grim Reaper. So this like Grim Reaper is Wonder Man's brother, and there's just lots of like drama, which I was like, this is a lot.
Can I ask what we think of the Mephisto theory? Because I'm a big fan of that one.
Wait, did you say Mephisto?
I did.
Is it pronounced Mephisto?
How do you pronounce it?
Mephisto.
Mephisto? I don't know.
I also say Mephisto, but I don't know.
I like Mephisto.
I am a reader, not a speaker.
Oh, please trust me. There are certain things when I finally hear them pronounced where I'm like, oh my god,
I'm
never
probably wrong.
that correctly. But I like Mephisto.
I like it. I think it sounds more like fancy. It sounds more like you write literature, and Brandon and I write like crap.
Hola, me llamo Mephisto.
Mephisto.
But I do like the theory of that character, and I did read. I watched a video that was like a theory on why Dottie might be Mephisto. Now I just mushed it into my version and your version, Preeti.
Yes.
Dottie might be that character, and I would also be into that. Yeah, right?
I'm sold on that. I just think when you combine it with what happened in the end tag of Spider-Man Far From Home, it like makes sense to me just from the comics background, right? Like
for us, like non-Marvel encyclopedias, because so far all Wikipedia is telling me is Mephisto is a fictional character appearing in American comics.
So he was written in
fictional. What else do we know about Mephisto?
So we know at the end tag of Spider-Man Far From Home, the second end tag is when he gets unmasked. Yeah. Basically, Mysterio's like horrible thing that he did before he died was like, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. That happens in the first Civil War comics in like 2008 or whatever, that run,
right,
where Tony convinces Peter to unmask because it's right and that's how superheroes should act, and it ends very, very poorly. like skipping over a lot of stuff. And so Peter goes to Mephisto and is like, can you help me put the secret back in the bag? And it kicks off all this stuff. And so to me, bringing in the Mephisto connection of wanting someone who is magical and more possibly more powerful than Wanda as a villain. You know, you like, obviously we have Agatha who could potentially be that person, but Mephisto brings a stronger connection of all of these properties tying into one larger story, in my opinion.
And now Wikipedia is telling me that his powers are superhuman strength, shape and size shifting, projecting illusions, and manipulating memories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got it, girl.
So wait, the one keyword Preeti left out is he's basically the devil in the Marvel universe.
Yes, that is what I did leave out.
And if it is Dottie or Catherine Hahn, mission accomplished. Crush established.
I would like to see Mephisto show up at the end in like a red terry cloth robe, and he's just sitting in a chair, and he's just laughing and having a good time. I would really, honestly, I would like it. I'm curious because for these Disney shows, like, I think Marvel knows that people are expecting a new thing.
Yeah.
Not just a continuation, not just a building to the next thing. So it would make sense to at least tease Mephisto in a tangible way by the end, so that we're getting a visual or something that at least gives us like an answer, not necessarily the fullness of the answer, but just like, okay, you're right, it's Mephisto. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also, I keep going back and forth with whether they would be like, yeah, because he's Mephisto. God, now I'm like, which way do I say it?
Sorry.
Because he's not. That's fine. Because it's like, he's the devil, but we don't use the word devil. But then other half of me is like, yeah, but Disney would be like, no devil characters. And I'm like, I don't know, right? What do you guys think?
I think they would allow it.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, they can always tweak it so it's something slightly not as, I don't know.
I mean
Fantasia
exists.
Yeah, and I don't think of him as the actual devil or like a Christian devil.
Same.
You know what I mean? Like, so he's just like a general devil, just
agreed.
Evil devil.
He's like
classic devil,
a lowercase d devil, not an uppercase d devil.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I'm sure that they'll just tweak whatever. It's not like he's like drawing pentagrams anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, they would probably just use like the underworld and not like hell,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like he would tie into also to Doctor Strange, what they're saying this is like sort of a lead up to, and the multiverse of madness. I feel like that kind of goes, that's a scary title and it's supposed to be a scary movie, right? That was
it's supposed to be like the first horror, like legitimate horror movie.
What's Mephisto, man? The lowercase d devil. Pretty scary.
It's true. And, another thing is that Paul Bettany has been quoted a couple times in the past week. All of a sudden, I'm like, Perez Hilton, I'm like, Paul Bettany, the tea with Paul Bettany is that he got to work with an actor that he has commented a couple times and saying, in WandaVision, I got to work with this actor that I've always wanted to work with or something like that. And so part of me is like, is it Benedict Cumberbatch? Because it could be if it was like, because Doctor Strange is or it could be that they've cast somebody amazing as Mephisto.
Right.
And that's who he's talking about. Like, and ever since I read that he said that, I've kind of been like, I love like a really good secret casting. And I gotta say, like with these shows, especially because they were happening like in filming during pandemic times, like there is a level of secrecy that they were able to achieve.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're already like pretty secretive anyway, but like, so they could have rushed, some crazy actor in to do some green screen stuff when no one was looking and surprise us all, which is what I hope happens.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that's really true. Yeah. Like then it makes their like, because they often do feel like, so I know that like Chris Evans, when there was like that rumor going around that like Captain America might come back to the MCU and he tweeted like news to me.
Yeah.
I do feel like they always do that though. I feel like anytime those rumors get released, like, now I'm drawing a blank on the woman from Orphan Black.
Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah. She was interviewed and she was like, not that I know of. I haven't heard anything of this. And then, Disney had that expo where they were like, yes, she is She-Hulk. So clearly she knew.
Yeah, because they're all afraid. They're like I think they're just all afraid because things are like in process and things haven't been signed.
Yeah.
And so they're just like terrified to say the wrong thing.
Which I understand, because you don't want to get in trouble for that job, because that's like the job, right? Like,
oh God, no. Yeah.
But so, Kiersten, where are we in the episode? Because now I don't even remember.
Where are we in the episode?
Okay, Monica
got sucked
First
in.
5 minutes.
Yes, we are still in the first 5 minutes. No, Monica gets sucked in, and so then we transition to now there's a whole investigation complex with lots of tents and no coffee, and our hero Darcy shows up in a van making snide commentary, reminding us how much we love her.
Yes.
A+.
Brandon, I wanted you to talk a little bit about Darcy, because you have written her before.
Yes, I really had a fondness for Darcy. Like when I wrote my Avengers and like Infinity War Endgame, the book that she appears in, like I was given Dr. Selvig as a main character, and at first I was like, okay, which I was like, I'll work around with the punches, but I was like, well, this is a great place to put Darcy, and so it's difficult. It was difficult because I couldn't leave these characters in drastically different places. I could, work around what the constraints were. And with Darcy, I feel like getting the approval of Darcy stans online was like made it all worth it, because there were like a lot of Darcy stans. And I went on Tumblr in the very beginning to sort of check it out, because that's where they congregate. And so I like did some looking around, and then I wrote the book. And then after the book came out, I felt I felt very good about what I did, because there was a girl online that thought that I stole her Darcy fanfic.
Oh my God.
Legitimately. And I was like, oh, that's the sweetest thing. I have no clue what this person's Darcy fanfic was, but I was like, what a compliment. She's like, this is everything I wanted, because I wrote it. And I'm like, no, you didn't. But Darcy because she's like a breath of fresh air and everything. She's funny.
Yes.
She says, she is the viewer, surrounded by all this insanity. And it was really nice to also see her move through WandaVision, just confident, doing her thing. Because part of the thing in Thor: The Dark World was that she, it was sort of a happenstance thing. And then I continued into my book, and that she was sort of working with Selvig, trying to move forward, but was dealing with his antics a lot, and she couldn't devote the time and energy to doing what she wanted to do. And then at the end of the book, it sort of left her in a new position where she was like pursuing what she wanted to do. And now to see her doing what she's doing and being successful is very nice. And one thing that I did like as a side note to when she finally discovers, well, first of all, just like her comfortability with all the things that she's doing, like it's like, and spewing, like we were saying, spewing off all the sort of CMBR stuff where it's like, okay, we'll get that out of the way. She's very comfortable. Yes, of course, CMBR. That's right. Then when she watches, I really loved the moment when she watches the thing, and at the end of episode 1, the sort of credits thing, we see at the end of episode 1, this person puts a pad down on the table or on the desk as they finish watching the episode on an old TV. And then I liked the callback to that we find out that was Darcy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was a really nice like way to thread that together. And I just was like, oh, okay.
And I think Darcy, I said this before, but the thing they do with Darcy is Kat Dennings, they kind of let her be Kat Dennings, which they kind of do with Catherine Hahn as well.
Yes.
But it works for the characters that they're giving them. And like Darcy's like, she's a little sassy. She's also a little like, what the fuck? This is ridiculous.
Yes.
But like not too much. There's never a point when I don't believe that she's, this like MCU scientist. Sure. And I kind of hope she becomes like, in the comics, they often have like that scientist they go to for help. And I kind of would love if she becomes MCU's like, anytime they have like a big science issue that they need a scientist for, like, sure, go to Darcy. And like, she helps them with whatever. That would be great. Yeah. I would love that.
Because she's like, she makes it she makes the science approachable, where she's not coming in and being like, going off the deep end. Like, two of her lines were big hits in this apartment, which were barf and don't touch that.
I loved when she corrected when somebody
that.
called her miss and she was like, "It's doctor." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, that was a good moment.
Yes.
It's so good. I loved that, and I loved when she's in the back of the truck and she's like asking them, and she's like, "We got a full clown car here." Like, I just thought, because she's like still has the like, you could tell she's a little nervous too. Like, she's making jokes because she's a little nervous, which is understandable, right? Like, she doesn't know what the fuck she's going into. So yeah, I think Kat Dennings is such a breath of fresh air. And like, I've loved this show, but we kind of, I don't know, it doesn't take itself too seriously. And then she's in there to explain it to you, but still not take it too seriously while explaining it, which I felt like that's what I needed. I said this was like an episode of Lost, but often Lost would be very heavy-handed and like very serious with their descriptions. And I say that as someone who loves Lost, so it's not, but like, this is what I would prefer, right?
Well, and they timed it so well too. Like, Ian, you and I had talked about how maybe the releasing once a week didn't necessarily do this series any favors because, like my husband was like, "Are they really just gonna remake old sitcoms for this whole show?" Because they didn't give you that many moments of weirdness. They did, and it was enough for me. But like, so I think doing the 3 episodes to really ground you in the weirdness and to say we are fully committed to this, and then do the breakout episode where they start giving you not answers, but they start giving you context and a few like tidbits of explanation. I think it worked really well, and I think that it then makes me even more excited for what they're going to do next week. Like, is it going to go back to being like the weird bottle episode? When are we going to hit the 90s? When we're going to get the references? Please, they've got to do Full House. But yeah, like, I think that it was really well timed, and this whole thing is so smartly written. I just, as a writer, I mean, obviously I don't write TV, but like, I just appreciate it so much. Okay, so yeah, we get Darcy at the camp. She's doing her sciencey thing. She figures out the thing that none of these dudes have figured out, which is that there's a TV broadcast going on. So she gets the equipment. And then we get her interacting with Jimmy Woo, which is like, makes my heart so happy.
So wonderful.
So good. Yeah.
We love Woo.
We just really love him. And they're starting to figure things out.
Right? And the thing I like about their dynamic is often especially in Marvel, usually the lady has to be the straight, the quote unquote straight man. And like the guy gets to be the jokey, funny, sassy one. And so I really appreciated that for once it wasn't that dynamic, and she was the jokey, sassy one, and Jimmy Woo is like the straight one who's like just kind of like, we need to figure this out, but he's not like, he's still enjoyable to watch. He's
so earnest.
Yes, he's like so earnest, and in their dynamic, I like that she's kind of like, I don't know, let's figure it out. He says like they're watching the show, and she's like, I know it's been a few weird years on this planet, but like Vision is dead, right?
Oh, yeah, good God.
And then Jimmy Woo is like, the universe created a sitcom starring 2 Avengers, and she's just like, it's a working theory. I loved that.
That was a good moment.
Yeah, and I do like that she pointed out the Vision
because it's very like,
because I have a friend who is not caught up on Marvel movies at all. Like, she's years behind, but she wanted to watch this because she heard it was weird, and she texted me. She's like, I like it. She's like, were they together in the movies? I'm like, oh, honey, I need to fill you in. He's dead. And she's like, Marvel dead? And I was like, well, yes, Marvel dead, but dead, Marvel dead. So, yeah. So I'm glad that they addressed that. I think they're doing a good job of walking the line of like, it is hardcore Marvel, Easter eggs, tons of references. But at the same time, if you're not, completely up on everything or have a super good memory, it's very accessible.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, that's kind of where I first started thinking it was kind of like Lost. I mean, not that Lost was that accessible once we got farther in, but like Lost was kind of like this, where like you didn't know all the pieces, but you just saw them, right? You would see the like the Dharma Initiative symbol on the freaking shark, and you would see that like there was the numbers reappearing, but like you didn't quite know how they fit together. And that's why I feel like, while it is comic book Easter eggy, it's still like, oh, this is just a mystery. And even like the folks like Preeti and Brandon, you guys have written for Marvel. Like you still you can know what the pieces are, but you still don't quite know how they fit,
Definitely not.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marvel's like, write this thing, but we're gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I know. Like I do love the when people sort of think that so more than you do, where it's you've been let in on all the secrets, and it's
Nope.
Even people at Marvel don't have all the secrets. It's not like they have a meeting with the entire company and everyone's like, yeah, here's the deal. No, people are in the dark about some stuff.
But so that's funny. Actually, what I meant was you guys have a vast knowledge of Marvel and have written for these characters, but you might see the pieces in the show, but even the most hardcore comic stan can't tell you how all the pieces fit
definitely
together.
No.
So whether you get the Easter eggs or don't, it doesn't really, it doesn't make you get quote unquote the show more or less. I don't think.
No. I enjoy the fact that people, I mean, this is a sharing circle, but I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have friends growing up that cared about comic books or superheroes or anything like that. And so to know now that there are people that I still operate from this place of I have to tell my friends about something so that they know it exists. But Marvel is mainstream. There are people that I know that are oh yeah, I love the Avengers. And I'm I didn't ask you to love the Avengers.
Why was I not told about this?
Yeah, where I'm what? I remember the first time my friend was oh, I saw X-Men. And I'm what? How did you even know that exists? She's it's a big movie. And with something like WandaVision, it's mainstream. People that just have Disney Plus are we're gonna get WandaVision. I want to check it out. It looks weird. Which is kind of crazy and weird and great.
Well, even so Kiersten's been on the podcast with her before. One of my best friends, Kimberly Ann, her and her husband she's into pop culture, but very selectively. And her and her husband decided they were going to do they had only seen a few of the Marvel movies. They'd seen the first Avengers, Black Panther, and Captain Marvel. And I think that was maybe it. They decided to do a full watch together. And, they had a baby, so it's been slow. But she was like, Ian, can I watch WandaVision even though I haven't seen Doctor Strange yet or anything after that? And I was like, no, you can't. She was like, but I really want to watch it. I was like, no, you can't. You really can't.
Yeah.
If you're doing the watch,
if you're
you gotta
actually
wait.
doing the watch, you need to wait. If you're not doing the watch, you don't need to wait.
Right. If you're not doing the watch, I can give you a 5-minute explainer. But if you are, it will spoil things for you. And I don't know. Brandon, that's funny. My first job was at a comic book shop. And all of my friends would tease me. I mean, not mean, but just be oh yeah, Ian's the nerd. And now that's not that. Motherfucker, you're not different anymore, Ian. I thought I was so different listening to my pop punk and reading comic books, but that's kind of the norm now.
Yeah. I mean, I also am for certain people the nexus of certain things. I have a friend of mine, Marie, who may even listen to this, whose daughter is a big Hulk fan, and she sends me these beautiful videos of her daughter just going, Hulk, my Hulk,
Aww.
and pointing at Hulk all over the place. So I enjoy that. That's fun. And then other people come to me and they're can you explain? And I'm ugh, go on Wikipedia. I can't be here for everything.
Literally at work, all my coworkers are I'm the one that they're asking about WandaVision. It's I have one manager who's as pretty big of a nerd as all of us are. And then a few others that are just but they're oh, what did you think of this? And I'll give them little fill in the blanks of stuff. And I kind of like being people's nerd friend that they'll talk to about this stuff.
Has anyone watched
and I made a whole podcast about it.
Wait, has anyone watched the those little shorts that Disney Plus is putting out to give you context of the characters?
I did, yes. I watched them before this episode because I was oh, I'm curious to see what these are and to debate whether I should recommend my friend who hasn't watched any of the recent movies watch them. And I mean, they're 7 minutes long. So it really is just a greatest hits, emotional and plot moments.
Okay.
But it is a good refresher because it has been years since some of these moments happened. So if your brain is Swiss cheese, you might not remember them. I'm talking about myself. Except that the annoying part is my 7-year-old is with me. So he's who's that? What's that? What just happened? Why can she do that? What's that? I'm oh my gosh, go away.
Watch a movie, kid.
Yeah, it's like I told Ian, because he's like, have you watched it yet? I was like, no, we have to wait till my 7-year-old goes to bed. Not because it's inappropriate for him, but because he's so obnoxious to watch stuff with.
Oh my
It's
God.
for me. It's not for my kids.
Kirsten, I love that you're blowing up your own spot in the podcast. I wasn't going to tell that story during recording.
Whatever, I'm a good mom. I let my teenagers watch it with me because they don't ask questions.
They're on their phones like regular kids.
100%. Okay, I'm gonna move us back onto plot track. So they're starting to figure things out, right? They're watching the episode, they're putting names to faces and figuring out who these people are that are showing up. And then our older white authority dude, who may or may not be evil, depending on how you feel about older white dudes in authority positions, sends someone through the tunnels to go through. So he's risking another person to try and get Monica out.
And Jimmy's immediately like, this is a bad idea.
Yep.
And we know it's a bad idea because we know what happens to this. Well,
sort of.
So do we think this character has to show back up at the end, right? Because it can't be that Wanda just murdered this man out of existence, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. I feel so bad. The minute it like changed as he was going through the thing, I was like, oh no.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, turn back, dude. Just go back.
You're bees now. Go back.
But it was such a great moment because like what this show is doing and what the Lost thing is that it's a great like moment of conversation for the week, right? Where you're just like, what does this mean? Like, I can't tell you how many of those conversations I've had specifically with the bee guy. I'm like, who the hell is the bee guy? And then you find out and it's so sad.
But it's also so simple because I was like, what do the bees mean? The bees don't mean anything.
Yeah.
That was just,
they don't mean anything.
The translation of his hazmat suit, right? Because that was the
it's so good
translation, which is such a simple, elegant explanation of something that seems so sinister and mysterious.
And like misdirection, right? Like it's a great use of misdirection on their part.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Especially because Marvel has a million characters that, people were like, I saw people online being like, the bee guy is Swarm, and this is how Swarm is created.
Yeah.
And like, if you know Marvel Comics, you might know Swarm, the guy that's made of bees. But like, you like to just immediately jump to bee, Swarm, that guy's Swarm. Like, it's like, relax, guys. Just like, let this character, like, not every bee person in this.
But isn't it fun to have those conversations and have those thoughts of could it be? Is it this person?
Absolutely.
Like maybe it's this person. It's just
absolutely. I just love that there are some websites that take that and then like people are immediately churning out stuff where it's like
not into the clickbaity headlines.
Yes, I'm like fascinated with them. I think that they're grotesque, but I'm fascinated with like some websites that they're like. Honestly, like,
they're like one person with 24 followers on the internet said this. Let's write 500 words about it. Like what?
Yes.
Wasn't there a WandaVision rumor that like I forget that maybe it was just a Marvel rumor in general, but it was like all going back to like a YouTuber named like Dick Poop or like something.
That sounds right.
That sounds about right.
That tracks.
That tracks, yeah, for sure.
To be fair, Dick Poop was the one that said they were going to make an Eternals movies, like, and he said it like 10 years ago. So like, you need to understand. That's my favorite. That's my favorite when they like go back to people and being like, this person predicted this 10 years ago, and you're like, you can make a lot of very basic predictions about the way that Marvel go and the characters that they will use because they're a company. And they have great characters. So if you're like, they will use the X-Men one day is not a crazy prediction. They will use the X-Men because they own them and they're good to use.
Yes. But so, the oh my God, so Darcy, that's when Darcy, like, she's like, oh, they're at a swim club. And she's watching the show. The tunnel guy comes back with a jump rope. So they see the jump rope and they're like, oh shit. Well, the whatever cord they had comes back as just like, as a jump rope. And then Darcy, we get the no moment. Darcy is watching the episode. It's when Dottie and Wanda are at the swim club and having their talk after. And I really love that we get to see literally how Wanda's edits project into whatever the reality is,
because we've seen more of that moment than they're seeing.
Right. Yes. And I like that Darcy notices something is going on, right? Because she sees that like Wanda and Dottie are both kind of freaking out about something, and then it just blips to her with the like cut on her hand. And she says like, "Oh, they failed," and it was Jimmy coming through on the radio. Yeah, I don't know. I really like these fill in the blank things that like we don't necessarily 100% need, but I like them, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just shows everything line up in a nice way that you're like,
yes.
They made a choice in these other episodes and it wasn't arbitrary and it has purpose and meaning.
And I meant to look this up. One of you might know. Should I put in my notes like, oh, look up what's that Twilight Zone episode where the kid's in control of the town? Isn't that like a Twilight Zone thing? Where there's like a kid that has powers to turn people into things, and it's like the whole town has to be happy around him.
There's also an episode of Supernatural that's like that. I'm so sorry.
I forgot that you're a Supernatural stan.
I'm so sorry.
I want you to know, though, the reason I know there's a Twilight Zone episode like that is because The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror did an episode on it.
Yeah, no, it is good.
Kiersten, you were going to say?
Twilight Zone episodes, this child can basically bend the universe to his will. So if you make him mad, you're dead. But everybody treats him badly too because of it. And so finally a woman comes and she's going to help him get control of it or whatever. So it actually has a fairly positive end. But yeah, it is. A kid who can bend the universe to his will.
Okay, so I wasn't that far off. I knew there was a Twilight Zone thing, but so I feel like it's almost that. But I do agree with Preeti that there probably is like a bigger bad on top of the Wanda being in control of whatever's going on. So when they ask about the transformation, Darcy even says like, I think it's just to fit the aesthetic of the show. Like she kind of immediately is just like, well, that's what it has to be. I mean, it's right because that is what it has to be. So I love Darcy and Jimmy watching together, and Darcy's like, why are they jumping errors? This can't be purely for my enjoyment, can it? Which I thought was like a really good line. And I love that they're both invested. Like when, what does Jimmy say? Like, oh, like he says something about them being pregnant. And then she offers him chips and he thinks she's talking about like having a kid.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
Yes.
But yeah, okay. So gives birth. Twins, what a twist.
Oh, wait, can I say something really quick? There's a line that they use, that another thing that I saw online, where the line that the guy says when he's like, oh, you've got 2 babies on your hands or something, is a callback to the comic books because there's, I'm forgetting the name of the character who has the Scarlet Witch and Vision's children on his hands, like they are his hands. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't remember this.
Okay, I might have to look online for this. But there was a character at some point, and I you know what? Let me look this up right now.
I mean, the whole arc with the kids in the comics is so brutal, and just like this is where I keep coming back to like Wanda is not the villain of this. Like it's because they do this in the comics, and I'm really crossing my fingers that they don't do this in the show, where she is just failed by every single person around her. Like no one is there for her, and she's forced into this impossible situation and copes the best way she knows how, which is not healthily necessarily, but she's doing what she can do, and it doesn't go well, but it's not, I mean, she obviously like makes her choices and should own her actions, but none of it is malevolent.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
right.
True, yeah.
It's Okay, wait, so it's the Master of Pandemonium. And that is, he has the Scarlet Witch's children as
now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's an image of him, but it's like there's other stuff in the story. But anyway, that's one of the things. There's all these random callbacks to things in the comic books, visually and like verbal things, where you're just like, if you know these things, it's like overwhelming. But if you don't, it's really nice to be like, like just to know that they paid that much attention and gave that much care to these things, and it all makes sense. None of it's forced. None of it is like just trying to make people happy so that they're cramming it in. It's like stuff that enhances the experience.
Can I ask a very quick question that is kind of moving forward? So Monica is wearing the sword the sword necklace in the thing. And Wanda is clearly the one who is like, well, we think building this world and deciding kind of how people fit into it. Was Monica wearing the sword necklace the whole time as Geraldine? I should have looked this up.
So that's the thing I was wondering too, because I think there's got to be something up with that, because even when the guy turns into the beekeeper suit, he still has the sword emblem on his back.
She was wearing her badge when she got pulled into the world. Remember, she had a lanyard badge.
Oh, right.
So
Okay, yes. So that's where that comes from.
The show turned that into a necklace, like how it turned the hazmat suit into a beekeeper suit.
That's why I was wondering if she's wearing it the whole time, because I couldn't remember noticing it prior to the. I should have looked this up, but I didn't think of it until we already started recording.
Yeah.
It's fine. But no, I think you're right, Kiersten. It's like it would have turned the badge into a necklace, which makes sense, and she could have had it. She's wearing like the dress she's wearing, I think, in the second episode is kind of high, so it could be underneath. But so there's so many good scenes in this episode. So she asks, "Where's Rambeau?" Because we see the scene and we do see them. This edit, we see more of the start of their confrontation than we had the other edits, right? The other edits, it would be like a blip. And so Darcy and Jimmy Woo kind of know like, oh, something happened, because there seems to be the start of a confrontation and then it just blips to Wanda and Vision at the end, happy with their kids. I love that. Where's Rambeau? The siren blares. Then we cut to see what actually happened in that scene. And it is
so good.
I mean, that confrontation was so intense. And I have to say, Elizabeth Olsen, I'm happy that she really got to have this moment as an actor, because there were layers and levels to her performance that we have not been able to see in the films. And I think because those films are so busy, because there's so, it's in the midst of a fight scene, there's all these other elements that she has to contend with, to see her give this performance on this level, there's no distractions around. It was just so well done. And I cannot wait to see more of her acting in this thing.
Yeah. I mean, she gets so scary at this part, right? Like, because other scenes she's funny, it's deeply sad, it's unnerving, but in this one she's scary. And I get it. She's protecting her kids. She's protecting this reality that she's built for herself. She refuses to lose it again. But yeah, she was scary. She did such a good job.
Yeah, when her powers start to like
so good.
glow in her hands, like immediately I'm like, oh shit.
It's so
good.
She starts moving those fingers around. Like I remember when in like the Age of Ultron, where she was talking, I remember seeing an interview where she was talking about how she came up with the, how she conjures her powers and like what she was thinking in terms of hand movements. So anytime she starts to do her little hand moves, I was like, ooh, we're in trouble.
She's just so good. And like Tiana Paris's acting of like, she's also confused, but also terrified and like trying not to let Wanda kill her because she doesn't know what's going to happen is just so good. And I actually do love the like, I feel like, shit's going down when they do the like from the like old TV screen box view to like the widescreen.
Oh, it's such a good use of format. And very quickly, I want to point out, I didn't notice this because I watch on my laptop, but a friend of mine was saying when they move, literally the sound moves from mono speaker to multi-speaker, depending upon what era it is that they're showing us.
Oh.
Yeah. There's so many ways.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's so smart. Like, I just am so delighted by it from top to bottom. Like, it's fantastic. So she gets rid of Monica, blows her through the walls, and then we have the most horrifying scene. Oh, it's so awful. Comes in. It's
I like screamed a little.
Awful. Yes, and honestly, like I think back to that scene in which one was it? Where he pulls the thing out of Vision's head, and honestly, like. It's deeply graphic, right? Like it's disturbing.
Yeah.
And
it's very disturbing.
Yeah, like I find that, I mean, I watch the John Wick movies for comfort viewing, but that scene disturbs me. And so to see Vision come in as that version of him was like, and hear Paul Bettany's cheerful, like smooth voice.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh man. Yeah, it was great. It was.
And then right before,
as soon as he came in shadow, I was like, oh, this something is up because they're not showing his full face right now.
But I really like Paul Bettany's play on, like, that from the hints of the third episode into this episode, we're getting Vision kind of recognizing on some level that something is strange and something is weird and off, which leads to the question of, like, how much agency the people in this world have and the people who have been pulled into this world, and Vision, who is arguably like a complete and utter fabrication, right? Mm-hmm. How much agency does he have when he's not really there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you think that we will see all white Vision at some point in this show?
I don't know. I was wondering that because, right, that like almost is a callback to that.
Like, like when we're seeing, we've seen the previews where we see like classic quote unquote Vision, like costume, same with Scarlet Witch. Like, so I was like, if they're doing sort of nods to things, I was like, will we end up with possibly a new Vision, but it is the all white suit, Vision with the sort of different cape, the very, I don't know, not mod, but how would you describe that style?
I don't know how I would describe that style.
I was about to say futuristic, but like, no, that's not, I wouldn't.
Well, the thing I didn't know is that I read about that, like a theory that like, oh, it could be that could have been a nod to that. Like, I didn't realize when Vision was all white, because like, especially my comics early on, my knowledge is a little wonky. I kind of thought it was just his new costume. I didn't realize that was like full, like emotionless robot Vision.
Yes. So like,
I don't
what
know.
if we get left with, she's like, I got my baby back. And he's like,
right.
Sorry, I am not your baby.
I just want Wanda to have a happy
Wanda
ending.
deserves some happiness. Yeah. Bring back Pietro.
Yeah.
So another thing, a friend sent me a TikTok of someone saying that they thought that, and I didn't think about this, but I think it's true that like Monica is literally pushed through the fourth wall, and then we're just like, that's how we get the like know what's going on is when she's pushed through two walls in the house, a fence, and then the wall of the like upskirts of Westbrook.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's probably on purpose because it's four walls.
Do you think that Monica's interaction with this world will somehow be the catalyst that gives her
yes
photon powers?
Ooh.
I do. Preeti, Kiersten,
I don't know what that's referring to. So,
so Monica Rambeau in the comics, she has been Captain Marvel, she has been Photon, and more currently, her codename is Spectrum. She has like light powers. Also, my description of powers in comic books is very like hard because as a kid, it was just like, oh, they shoot energy, and I never like really knew what the difference between like her energy powers were and like her energy power. Like to me, it was like, they all just like could shoot things from their hands. So I know Monica is like, her powers are like light based. Right? Preeti, Brandon, one of you do a better.
Preeti would be really great.
Nope, I will not because I'm the same. I'm like, thank you for this detailed explanation of how these powers work. I will never remember it. And moving forward, I will say hers are a white light. His are a red light.
Yes.
No.
My husband was like,
yes,
what are
it's like, yes, I feel like
she
it's
can
like
just
light.
do things, like whatever things. And I was like, yes.
Magic.
That's what she can just do whatever
Blast.
things.
But so I would be okay with this being like her passing through that wall or whatever, or somehow she gets her powers. Is I do want her to have her powers because I feel like that's important for her to be able to have like a superhero narrative.
Yeah.
While I do love her as, Captain Rambeau of Sword, I would love her to be Captain Rambeau of Sword who also has powers. Like I just
agreed.
They'll give them to her.
Yeah, and I do think they will. Yeah. So, and even though we knew like the moment when Monica just like is like kind of freaking out and she's like, it's Wanda, it's all Wanda. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
It was just such a good moment.
I just
and then the episode ends. And the way Scarlet Witch, the way Elizabeth Olsen is, her acting is like really good in this because, so after she sees Vision with like the gray head, he clearly knows something is wrong and he's like, we can go somewhere else. And she like is teary eyed and says like, no, we can't. And my heart, I'm like, fuck, I just want her to like be like, you know what? We can, we're going to be happy. It'll be great. And like, that's it. But then it ends with her like saying, what are we going to watch next? Which I thought was really good. So I guess we're at the end now.
I have a question. Can we talk about Monica's fish pants?
Oh, they're so good.
Because I was like,
I like them a lot.
I want to know more about those fish pants. Yeah. I would like to own a pair of, maybe not the same pair. I don't know that we have the same shape, but I would like something comparable because actually I would like to have a pair of fish pants that I can wear as my night pants. That might be nice and comforting.
No, night.
Yes, pajama pants, which I also call night pants. Which are also now, because of the pandemic, day pants.
I didn't want to say, but I am literally, I'm wearing my like sweatpants I wear at night right
I'm wearing pajama pants.
Classic.
Don't worry.
I'm wearing a holographic Mickey Mouse sweatshirt, so that's
we're all killing it.
We are.
See, Brandon, when you asked if it was video, I should have said yes, because clearly we needed to show off our fashion for this.
Oh my God, no! I look like I just woke up and I've been up for all day.
Yeah. But okay, so favorite scene, Preeti?
I think it's the confrontation scene between Monica and Wanda. It's just the tension is so good and the writing is so good because even though we've seen pieces of it, I feel like they're having a conversation of how TV editing works on like a meta level that I find very interesting. It's just so good.
Yeah. Kiersten?
I mean, it's a tie between every scene with Jimmy Woo and Darcy and just absolute horrifying gut punch of dead Vision asking Wanda if they should leave. Like,
yeah. Brandon?
I will also say that the Wanda confronting Monica scene was like, I mean, like I said, like Elizabeth Olsen is getting to play a lot of levels and a lot of layers, and I just really enjoy watching that. And then I would say the second thing was the very first scene, just to get that, to start with all that tension and chaos and confusion, and was I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, Brandon, you stole both of my answers. Mine is a tie between the opening with Monica, just because it's so good, and then the confrontation scene, because it's also so fucking good. We do favorite outfit. I know there are a lot in this. So, Preeti, favorite outfit.
I mean, it's...
You can cheat if you want to.
Okay, because it's the fish pants.
Okay. Brandon?
I mean, fish pants, obviously, but also, I mean, I have to say that I like Wanda with that long hair. I like hippie, not hippie. That's not what I would. What would you call that look?
The like Marsha Brady
swinger Wanda. I don't know. I like Wanda's look in this.
All right, Kiersten.
I'm gonna have to go with fish pants too. Although I did like getting to revisit Dottie. I mean, you know how I feel about and suddenly I can't remember her name because I'm about to say how much I love her. Emma. What is
Emma Caulfield?
Emma Caulfield. Oh my gosh, you guys. See, again, this is lost, broke my brain, and has never recovered. Emma Caulfield, I love her so much, and it was fun getting to see her again because her look in this show is so good.
Yeah, it really is. I think mine is Darcy and her cute beanie.
Aww.
I like Darcy's like comfy scientist look. I think Kat Dennings is just great. So what would we like to see moving forward? Brandon?
I would like to see an unraveling. I mean, just like I'm very curious to see where this builds, and I want to see it. Like, I want to see a confrontation. I would love to see Wanda versus everyone, not in a malicious way, but just like a "let me have this" sort of way. Like, I would like to see her just show these people that she is not to be messed with, and not in the same way that we saw in the Avengers movies.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not
Okay.
saying that's necessarily going to be something where she's like throwing cars at people or anything like that, but she just is like, she is planting her feet in the ground so much that I would just like to see, a moment between her and other people who are just like trying to get her to do something that she doesn't want to do.
Preeti?
All right. I mean, my heart's desire, as is evident throughout this podcast, is getting Aaron Taylor Johnson back as Pietro. Because I'm still so angry that they killed him, and I will
He's
be
very
angry forever. I thought he was so good as Quicksilver, and to only get like a few minutes of him, whatever. But also, I want to see more of the twins. I love Billy and Tommy in the comics, and so I'm excited and hopeful about where that's going. Because if it ends up with us getting Young Avengers at some point down the line, like, super into it.
Yeah. Kiersten?
I mean, I am totally happy to like not impose my will on any of this show moving forward. Like, I feel like it's going so well. I just want to see what it does. But if they don't do a TGIF heyday, a Full House references, I will be devastated.
Do you think they'll
That's
do
fair.
like Ashley and Mary Kate lines? Like, whatever their lines, like, you got it, dude.
Oh, you got it, dude.
You got it,
dude,
dude.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where's
Oh my
my
God.
cigarette? Oh, you know what? I think that's older versions.
I would die if they had the twins like deliver those lines. It would be so good. My thing that I actually kind of want, I would kind of like. I'm not sure if I'd like it in the episode or to have them be separate episodes, but I would like the back and forth. I like that we got 3 of the sitcom episodes with like creepiness at moments, and then this explainer episode of what's going on in like quote unquote the real world. I would like more of that back and forth. Because I do think, I think of last week's episode that was straight up like until the end, there was no real like weird, like aside from her editing Vision being like something's going on, it was kind of like a straight up sitcom episode until that end when she has her confrontation. And it was still that was so good. It was such a good episode. So I'm not like opposed to more like that while still having these episodes in between of like what Darcy and Jimmy Woo are doing, and maybe Monica. Now we're in rating the episode. I'd give it an A. Kiersten, what grade do you give it?
I mean, A. Yeah, I loved it. I love this show.
Preeti?
Definitely an A.
Brandon?
A's across the board.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for listening to our WandaVision coverage. I'm having a lot of fun covering this show. If you like SlayerFest 98, you can find us at SlayerFestX98 on all social media platforms. If you like the podcast, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and other corners of the internet where you get your podcasts. You can subscribe to us on Patreon, where you get access to mini episodes and our private Facebook group and more, and it really helps keep the podcast going, and I appreciate any support. If you want to follow me, I am at ENXCarlos. Preeti, where can everyone find you on social?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and now TikTok, because
Yes, she's a youth.
branding.
Nana's got a TikTok.
At Run with Skizzers. That's Skizzers. And you can actually, if you're interested, pre-order my latest Avengers Assembly book that comes out in April called The Sinister Substitute by going to preetichhibber.com.
Nice. Brandon, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at Brandon T. Snider on Twitter, Instagram, and I think that's it. And you can also go to my website, CootieKid, COOTIEKID.com, for all of your reading needs. I don't know where I was going with that.
You killed it. Kiersten, where can everyone find you?
So I'm on Twitter at Kiersten White, Instagram at author Kiersten White. You can go to kierstenwhite.com for info on any of my books. And you can always find me in the corner giggling to myself at the Avengers Assembly title, because it never doesn't make me laugh. It's the greatest title in the history of ever.
All right. Well, thank you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
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 Bye.